Yay Networks.
Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the Great Girlfriend magic on today's show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and your paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy! Happy Wednesday, great girlfriends, and close to summer, beginning of fall. We're at that time of year where moms are all frantically moving around because we're trying to get our kids ready for back to school. We're also secretly having celebrations because they're going back to school. and all the fun travel is coming to a close. I hope you have had a marvelous summer, and I hope you're ready to kick off the fall with some exciting new guests for the podcast. So I have on today a special guest, Sopha Rush, who keeps it real for women everywhere as the founder of Live Deeply Rooted and co-host of Moms Actually. Based in Dallas, Sopha believes there's nothing better than like-minded women joining together and living with intention. That's my kind of girl, Sopha.
Yes.
Sopha's releasing 100 Days of Living Deeply Rooted, a devotional journal offering a safe place for readers to be transparent, honest, and vulnerable. This interactive journal invites women to reflect and pray through the struggles and victories in their everyday lives while drawing deep daily inspiration and motivation directly from scripture. Sopha, I'm here for all of that, all of it. So I'm so happy to have you on today.
Thank you.
am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such an honor. I literally have been loving getting to meet some pretty dope women and getting to be on podcasts. So thank you for allowing me to be on here and just sharing my heart.
Oh, no problem. No problem. And we've spent a little time getting to know a little bit about your family. I had a chance to wave at your husband. How old are your mini?
I have a 4-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. They're both boys. And if you have boys, you know how wild it can be. So my house stays very adventurous.
Adventurous is a good way.
Adventurous is a very good wild.
A good way to put it.
Yes, I love them so much. But
I have a 13-year-old son, and I'm always like, so that's how you thought to do that. You thought that'd be the best way. That's different.
Yes, they love jumping. They love jumping off things. They love fighting, as in they love jumping on me, fighting me. I'm like, why? I'm not your punching bag, but it's just boys are different, okay? And I love it, but also I'm like, be more gentle, please.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. They're very much more physical. They love to have contact at all times. And tackling is and when you see them come together, if you see two boys come together, it's always a tackle involved. They're like it's never just a handshake or a hug. It's always going to have that contact. But anyway, enough about the boys. I want to know a little bit more about you. Give us a little bit of who you are and, who you became prior to introducing Live Deeply Rooted and your new book.
Yes. So I don't know where to begin. Do you want me to start from where I grew up or just kind of like?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So
what led you to Live Deeply Rooted?
Yeah. So I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. I grew up with 5 of my siblings. My mom raised us as a single mom. My dad ended up passing away when I was about 5 years old. And so we just kind of it was a little struggle. We kind of had a little rough start to my childhood, but by the grace of God, he protected me. When I was about 12 years old, my mom moved me and a few of my siblings to a children's home. And when I was at the children's home from 12 to 18 is whenever I learned who God was, kind of learned more my faith and what that looked like. And then from 18 until about 24, when I went to college, I created Live Deeply Rooted. And so that's kind of how Live Deeply Rooted was birthed. It was kind of birthed out of not having anyone guiding me. I didn't really have mentors. I didn't have really anybody helping me to get through college. And so I just wanted a safe space for women to be able to not feel alone, to feel seen, to feel loved, to feel like you don't have to do this by yourself. You don't got to walk through college alone. You don't have to walk through your faith alone. That there are other women who are going through the same thing, who may not have family helping them, who can connect and just create that community. And so that's a little how Live Deeply Rooted was birthed. It was kind of birthed out of a lot of my tears and pain of feeling alone into becoming my purpose and my calling. Yeah.
That feeling of loneliness is real because it's
Hmm.
haunting, and people oftentimes will journey through life feeling like in every stage that they still haven't found their people, the ones that really
Hmm.
see them and can respect and honor them for who they are. So
Yeah.
I love that you've curated a space for the invisible to feel visible. I think that's like
Yeah.
such a powerful meaning and message. So what have you learned about even that as you started to reach out and nurture other women? What did you find that was lacking that you provided through Live Deeply Rooted?
Just what we talked about, sense of community, like feeling that you don't have really no one to walk with. So community
Yeah.
was lacking, and just feeling like having the resource to deepen their faith with the Lord. I feel like that was lacking. People always asking me, like, how do you have a strong relationship with the Lord when it comes to praying? Or how can I grow closer to God? And so I really just wanted to create a space that people could do that, whether that's me sharing my prayers daily. I have my Live Deeper Rooted page where I try to, if I can be consistent, try to share my prayers every morning, so that
Mm.
people can have kind of like a resource or a space where they can, say a 2-minute prayer every morning to start their morning off right. So that was
Mhm.
kind of lacking as well. And just having that big sister. I feel like people really wanted that connection of having like a big sister, someone that
Mhm.
could really help them and inspire them and encourage them. And I was that for a lot of women, a lot of girls.
Mhm. When you
Yeah.
think about, that getting closer to God is such a big thing, right? Because I feel like
Hmm.
a big piece of our life journey is how do we keep that deep rooting, that relationship with God that allows us to benefit and feel and experience all of the abundance that
Yeah.
comes from it. But people are still trying to figure out their step
Hmm.
one to creating relationship. And people oftentimes feel like because it's been so long and they haven't,
Yes.
felt so they're so far apart. What do you consider like your step one to getting closer to God or even establishing relationship with God if you're in that space?
Of course. For one, I would just say, please don't beat yourself up if you have drifted from God. I feel like we've all been there. I've had many seasons where I felt alone, like I felt like I've drifted from God, or felt far from Him. And so just don't beat yourself up for that, and don't feel guilty when you do get to that place, because I don't feel like that's what God intended for us to feel. Like, I feel like God really just, when we are walking through that season, just to be reminded that He's always near and He's always present,
Mhm.
even if we are feeling like we're far away. And for the first step of someone who's really wanting to deepen their faith is just getting back to the feet of Jesus, like literally going to the basics of getting in your word and being intentional. And even if that is that 5 minutes, 10 minutes of just spending time writing out the things you're grateful for, or doing a small prayer, or journaling. And so it kind of ties back to my 100 days of living deeply rooted, because it's a devotional journal where you have a small
Mhm.
devotional, a prayer that is also goes with it, as well as scripture, and a space where you can just pour your heart out and journal whatever thoughts are coming to you, whatever prayer, anything that you feel on your heart, you can write out. And so
Mhm.
that's a way that I feel like can really truly help you, is just, for one, not beating yourself up, but also finding 5 to 10 minutes of your time to be intentional with the Lord. And then
Mhm.
also, I'm sorry, one more thing. And also
Oh,
just
sure.
remembering that God is literally all around. God is in the everyday thing. He's not just set apart for your quiet time where you're doing your 10
Mhm.
to 15, 20-minute, hour long session of worship, but like He's in the everyday, in the way that we breathe. He's in the way you're washing your dishes, whatever you're doing, driving to school, like God is present. And I think sometimes we forget that because we're so used to perfectionism. We're so used to feeling like we have to have that quiet time in order for God to hear us. But God hears us, and He's around us in everything. I find Him in everything. Nature and me, we can connect like this, because I feel like that's where God speaks to me the most. So even if I'm
Mhm.
just out and about, I just feel Him. So
I love that. Similar time frame in life is when I cultivated my relationship with God, and I found like, okay, that is my sustaining space. That's where I'm going
mhm.
to reside. And that's what I want everyone to experience. I want them to live from my sustaining space. I don't want them
Yeah.
to, feel any scarcity. I don't want people to experience pain at the hand of my experience. I want them to really be able to grow and be nurtured through what
Hmm.
I've learned. But how do you know how for the great girlfriend who's listening, who is saying, I don't know if I'm close to God. What is it supposed to feel like? Like,
Yeah.
am I supposed to have, butterflies in my stomach every day? Am I supposed to, is everything supposed to feel perfect? How are you supposed to feel when you're close to God versus when you're distant from God? And I know it seems like a very simple question, but I know it's a percolating question where some people, for people who like to validate and
Hmm.
have milestones on their experiences and know, like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing good, if this is the right way to do things.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know? How do you know? I have my ways. I'm curious to hear, how do you know when you're close and how do you know when you're far from God?
That's actually a really good question. But for me, I'm speaking from my experiences, but for me, how do I know? It's just like the peace that comes with it. I feel like even
Yeah,
when life is crazy or there's like so much going on and I could be in the midst of like a breakdown, when I still feel the peace of God that is in
yeah,
me, that's how I
yeah.
know that I'm connected to the source, because even in my weaknesses and even when I'm really struggling and I'm not understanding things, I just know that God is going to take care of things. I just know that he is going to handle the things that I cannot handle, and I need to surrender those things to him. So it's the peace for me, and also the joy. There's joy that comes with it,
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
even if, or even when, or like even if God isn't on my timing, to know that like there's still joy that comes with it. There's still joy that comes with the morning. There's still joy that
mhm,
comes with whatever I'm walking through. So I think those are the two ways that I know personally I'm close to God. And when I'm not close
mm,
to God, life is just chaotic. And that's the difference, right? So like whenever I am close to God and I feel so connected to him, life can be chaotic and I still feel that peace. Now, when I
yeah,
feel far from God and life is chaotic, I don't feel that peace. I literally feel
yeah.
anxious and frustrated, and like things just aren't adding up or making sense. And it starts to weigh on me, and the heaviness starts to come, and the
Mhm,
burden that comes with that. So that's the difference for me, is like,
mhm.
yeah, it's so hard to explain, but not at this. It's like very
No,
simple,
that's
but not
very
super.
clear. No,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
absolutely clear because,
Perfect.
I think about so many times people will say, "Oh, Sybil, you're so optimistic." And I'm like,
Hmm.
those are times when I feel I'm most plugged in to knowing that God is bigger than any circumstances I'm dealing with. So
Hmm.
of course I'm dealing with things that everyone else is in life is dealing with,
Yep.
but it's the knowing, a peace that comes from a sense of knowing that it
Hmm.
doesn't stop or end the way it looks. Like the circumstance will not be. That's not the
Yeah.
finale. There's
Yeah.
there's more to come. Yeah.
It's like joy and peace. It lives in you biblically. Like scripture says that joy lives in you. Peace, like if you have Christ within you, you have peace that dwells in you. And so
Yeah.
that helps me so much when I just can't fathom, like, God, why you have me walking through this fire? I'm like, I have that
Yes.
peace even when I'm walking through the fire. And same with joy.
Yes.
Like, if I think with joy too, it's like when you start to compare yourself and you start to look around and see what everyone else has, you lose that sense of peace as well, because you're so focused on what everyone else is doing, so focused
Mhm.
on not your own grass. And so that's
Yeah.
when you lose the whole, like, feeling far from God, because then you start comparing and complaining and you start pointing out different things, and then you become angry and resentful at God because you don't have what someone else has. And so it
Mhm.
all ties back to, like you said, just having it in you, like having the joy and the peace that lives within you.
So, great girlfriends, I've been smiling from ear to ear lately because I've got an entire regimen that makes me feel so great about my smile. Smile Brilliant is my new favorite company with the best life hacks for keeping these teeth pearly white and offering me my biggest, brightest smile. But here's the catch. Prior to using Smile Brilliant, I found myself really frustrated with my teeth because I've been grinding my teeth at night. My teeth weren't as white as I wanted them to be, and I wasn't flossing on a daily basis, to be very honest with you. So instead of going through this exhausting routine of having cosmetic surgeries and even hearing my dentist tell me that I got to do better over and over again, I've decided to take control of my smile journey. And I'm doing that using smilebrilliant.com. For as low as $45 per guard, I'm able to have night guards that keep my teeth from grinding at night and protects my enamel. I'm also able to have my new electric toothbrush that is a really powerful brushing tool. I have my whitening trays that help to keep my teeth pearly white. And I also have water flossers that allow me to floss on a daily basis and makes it super simple. So I know many of you have gotten off on your regimen, and I'm here to help, and so is Smile Brilliant. When you go to their website, smilebrilliant.com, you're going to select all the tools that you need to get your regimen back on track. And then when you check out, take 20% off of your purchase using the code GIRLFRIENDS. I repeat, a whole 20% off of your purchase using the code GIRLFRIENDS. That is a big discount, and it's going to give you big advantages. So head over to smilebrilliant.com today, save your pearly whites, make your smile big and bright like mine, and send me the pictures because I'd love to see how we're out here smiling from ear to ear. Go to smilebrilliant.com. Again, that's 20% off using the code GIRLFRIENDS, and I cannot wait to see your biggest, brightest smile. You said earlier, being connected to the source, and it's such a big point to
Mhm.
throw out that, you can have every resource in the world, but you have to
Yep.
recognize that they come from a source. And if you see
Mhm.
God as the source, then you start to understand the abundance of your resources.
Yeah.
And when scarcity starts to creep in, you can really offset it by reminding your circumstances that you don't have to
Yep.
surrender to that. Like you are in greater hands for greater good. So,
Yeah.
but we're in a space, Sopa, where lots of people are on social media comparing, and lots
Yes.
of people and people are losing their life, and they're losing their mission. They're quitting on things because they compare to what Sopa's got going on, what Sybil's got going on. They've decided
Mhm.
that they can't keep up, or they start to feel inferior, invisible in this digital world, and ultimately in the bigger world, because they have put so much concentration there. And so a lot of people are losing hope, Sopa, and it aches me to think
Yeah.
that, so many women are feeling forsaken because so many other women appear to be doing better. What kind of message of hope would you offer to the great girlfriend who's like, what about me? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that season. I feel like the last 2 years have been my harvest season. The years
Mm,
before that, I've had so many moments where I questioned God. I literally was like you said, I was comparing myself. I was asking God, like, I'm obedient, God. So why am I not getting these blessings? Like, why aren't you doing what you're doing for them, for me? I don't understand. Like, I
yeah.
literally have walked such a life that is so pleasing to you. Yet I'm over here crying my eyes out. We're living paycheck to paycheck, negative bank accounts. Like, it just literally felt like a never ending cycle. And, I literally did,
Mhm.
I hated to feel like that I was going to be in the cycle forever and there was no hope. And so for anyone who's
Yeah.
feeling that, just know that you're not alone. We've all been in those seasons, and it is very painful. But I tell you, the
Yeah.
moment that I surrendered to God, like truly surrendered to God and gave over my platforms to him, is whenever he did like a 180 and literally changed. Because I started my brand. I wanted to be, I wanted to show off my curls. I'm like, mind you, I don't even like doing my hair, but I'm like, that's what everyone else is doing. It's trending,
Yeah.
the hair, like the beauty lifestyle. I'm like, that's not really me, but I know that like I can be successful in that. But when I switched my account to do what God called me to do, it was scary, but I knew that I had to walk in my calling. And so I
Yeah.
pivoted, and I went to share more about what God was doing in my life. And at first I felt like nobody was listening. I felt like nobody really cared. But I just kept sharing. I kept sharing what God was doing and sharing sharing the pain that I was walking through in that season. And then
Yeah.
people just started to being drawn to that. And so
Hmm.
in those moments where you feel like you're starting to compare, take a break. Get off social media for a little bit and really sit there and reflect on like what God is calling you to do. What are you passionate
Hmm.
about? What is your purpose? A lot of people don't understand or know what their purpose is because they're just trying to keep up with social media and find what's trending so that they can take off and become viral, but
Right.
you have to do what brings you joy, but also like, what is God calling you to do? And I think from there,
Yeah.
if you can really figure that out, that will literally help you have so much clarity and know like what the
Hmm.
vision of what your platform is going to look like. If you're struggling, baby, just sit with the Lord. Ask God for clarity. Ask God to reveal to you what He's wanting you to do. And so, yeah, that's what I would encourage a girlfriend to do, is just really sit with the Lord, ask God, or even pray on it and write out all your thoughts, all the things that bring your heart the most joy, and go from there.
You know what, Sopa? I had a couple years ago. Well, actually, it was probably 2019, but I had a period where I just felt so burdened. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the good things felt heavy, the bad things felt heavier, right?
Yeah.
And I have journaled for years, but I started to do these vlogs to myself
Yeah.
because I told myself, I know that I'm going to get delivered from this, but I'll never want to forget the fact that I had this experience with pain and that I was walking
Mm-hmm.
through this. So the scariest thing that I've done with myself, for myself, was to actually sit on video, cry,
Wow.
and
Wow.
get very vulnerable and honest and look in the camera and talk about what I was feeling and say to myself that this is just temporary, but this is a real feeling that I'm feeling. I think sometimes people, Sopa, get very scared to be vulnerable with themselves.
Yeah.
And journaling is a place where I started with journaling moons ago, and I was so freaked out that somebody would find it and take it and run with it. And then I got over that thing, but I still found that journaling was such a good release for me
Mm-hmm.
to just liberate myself from pain and from those feelings that will gridlock you for a bit. What have you found are like some of the benefits of journaling that you've attached even now to your devotional?
Yeah, I've been journaling since I was in seventh grade. And
Yeah.
I literally love the fact that, for one, it's just a safe space for me to pour my heart out. But for two, it's literally a way for me to go back and see, kind of like your video. I wish I would have done video. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't into
Girl, start now.
videos. But it's really, that is so smart. I never
Just
thought.
start now. Like your next time, just throw it
Yeah.
on video. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
thought to do that. But just with journaling, like I've been able to go back over the years to see my progress of like me, how much pain I was in, and then seeing how
Yeah.
far God brought me out of that. And so like
Yeah.
and when I'm out of a season where I'm like, God, where are you? Where I feel like I've drifted from him, I can go back and look back and see how far I've come. And I know that
Hmm.
God he won't ever forsake me. And so I'm like, this is
Hmm.
God's reminder to be like, yo, I'm gonna come through for you like I've always have. Like, even if
Yeah.
this season don't look like it, I'm coming through for you just on my timing. And so that's
Yes.
what journaling has been for me. It saved me. It literally saved me. It became such a part of who I am. Now my
Hmm.
husband also journals every single morning. So to see him journaling just
Hmm.
makes my heart smile, because he used to hate journaling. And I'm like, just
Hmm.
try it, just try it. But now he loves it. He doesn't go a day without journaling. He probably journals more than I journal now. But it
Oh,
really is,
good.
yeah, it's so good. Like I feel like when I journal, I am able to organize my emotions better. I'm able to put it down
Yes.
and not pick them back up. Like I literally can just
Yeah.
set them aside, and I just
Yeah.
feel like a lift off of me. Like I gave it to God
Yeah.
and it's good. Like I can leave it there,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what journaling's been for me. It's literally been a safe space.
So this is my last
Mhm.
question. Well, maybe my next to last question for you. The other thing that's really big right now, I'm talking mega big, you see it everywhere, it's such a
Mhm.
trending topic, is manifesting.
Mhm.
And it's just I see your face like, yes, manifesting. Manifesting is the movement. And there's so many different perspectives on how and
Mhm.
why and how to devote your manifestation or your belief in that to something higher. I really want to hear from you as a Christian woman. And I've already gotten a dose of your faith. I understand where you sit on with things.
Yeah.
How do you view this manifestation movement? And what would you tell great girlfriends to do if they are interested in actually seeing or actualizing things that they believe in by faith?
Yeah, this is actually a good topic. Like a little tricky, but I just had a talk with my girlfriends this weekend because I
Uh-huh.
wrote it in one of my posts, and someone called me out on it and was like, "I don't like you're talking about manifesting, you're a believer," and I'm like, I guess because in this day and age, the word manifest has it's been tainted a little bit. For me, when I say manifest, I'm just saying like being able to, I guess, envision the things that you want for your life and writing them down and to
Mhm.
manifest that they're going like that God is going to do those things for you and with you. And so I don't really know the definition of manifest, to be honest, but like growing up or like knowing that's just my definition of it. So I know
Mhm.
people have very different views on manifesting, but for me, I've always saw it as like kind of like whenever you have a vision board and you cut out all the pictures, you do all the nice little things to
Mhm.
have a goal in mind. And so for me, that's
Mhm.
kind of like how I envision manifesting. Like I manifest the very things that I want to happen in my life. I speak them into existence, but also in a sense, like I'm not glorifying what I want to come to pass, but I'm just speaking them and letting them be known that, you know, especially like when I wanted to write a book, I spoke about writing a book for years ago. And I feel like I manifested it because I did the work
Mhm.
behind it, like I put it into action. It wasn't just like I'm speaking it and it's just going to happen. Like I actually did the work. And so I
Mhm.
don't know. What is
Mhm.
your take on manifest? Because I literally I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I view it's similarly. I view it as as actualizing something that
Mhm.
you envision, and to be able to do that, to be able to put words and speak life to something. I mean, I'm a Christian, so for me, that's a spiritual practice. And then to
Mhm.
actively move something by works in a in alignment with your faith
Yeah.
is for me the process of manifesting. I'm not, I've seen people pulling out, I don't want to call it dust, but I've seen people pulling out powders and crystals and all types of things.
Uh-huh.
And what I do believe is that I believe that faith works as long as you work faith.
Mhm.
And I believe that that's any doctrine of faith.
Yeah.
If you believe it and you apply belief to it, but you have to apply it. So it's one thing to speak it 10 times. It's another thing to actualize through your work. They're actually
Mhm.
writing your book. They're actually, putting yourself out there to produce something new or to align yourself with the right community to build bridges, et cetera. So I look at it as actualization, the process of actualizing something that you see in a spiritual or in your mental or spiritual space.
Yeah.
And the methodology part is where things get really tricky, because I do think that a lot of people have felt like it's more of a chant practice, that if you
Mhm.
chant it 10 times a day. I think that that does plant seeds, and like, and when you speak something, it does fertilize the soil of your mind. But I also
Mhm.
think then you have to go out and do some work and, like, you know,
Yep.
put some
I
labor.
agree. I agree. I echo everything that you said. Yeah, thank you. That kind of helps me too, because I really had to
Yeah.
think on that, like, because I never saw it as like a negative thing, or
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's just there's two different definitions of it apparently, but I never seen it as a way that like wasn't godly. So,
Well, the thing is, I think it's a belief base, and sometimes, I hear there's so many. I hear conflicts with people who feel like it's not Christian to manifest, and there's so many places in the Bible
mhm,
where we're manifested by faith, and there's
sure.
evidence of belief in action, and there was fruit of that. And I
Hmm.
feel like sometimes we can get lost in things that we see on social media and forget that there are roots that we can locate if we truly look for them. So,
Yeah.
I was just curious because there's so many conversations about it, and there's, I'm seeing battles on it. I'm like, I don't know if we need to fight over things like that, or could we all
Hmm.
go out and actually manifest, get to work?
For real, for real.
Oh my gosh. Okay, last question, final question, because I
Yes.
could talk to you forever, Sophia, but this devotional, 100 Days of Living Deeply, what do we want great girlfriends to take away from it, and where can they buy it?
Yeah, so I pray whoever gets this devotional that you are inspired, that you are encouraged to dive deeper in your faith with the Lord. Whether you have 5 minutes, whether you have an hour to really just spend time journaling, this devotional is perfect for you. I created this devotional out of one of the darkest seasons of my life. Last year was it was rough. But God used my pain and turned it into my purpose. And so for anyone who is reading this, I pray that it just really allows you to dive deeper and to just get reconnected back to the source, which is God.
Yeah.
And you can find this devotional on Amazon as well as DaySpring.com. I think it's at Barnes and
Awesome.
Noble as well. So those are
Ooh, yeah.
yes. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Awesome. And great girlfriends, if you email us at welcome@thegreatgirlfriends.com, we have 3 copies that we're giving away to our listeners. So if you want to be one of the first 3 to receive a copy, you get a complimentary copy on us. You can email welcome@thegreatgirlfriends.com and we'll have it shipped out to you. So Sopa, where can everyone keep up with you on social media?
Sopha Rush on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, anywhere. I think it's like all the same. You could just type
Okay.
my name and find me. And then I do have a Live Deeper Rooted page as well on Instagram, where I also share like my prayers daily so that you can get a little bit of God's word.
Awesome. Awesome.
Mhm.
Sopa, it's been my pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for your
Thank
time
you.
and thank you for sharing with us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me today. It was a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, great girlfriends. Did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast and the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group at The Great Girlfriends. Follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_great GFS. I'm Sybil Amuti and I'm out. Peace.